Simon drove down the road, keeping his eyes peeled. The endless yellow fields of the Midwest had broken apart, swooping up and down unevenly over the hills. It was as if God had crumpled up the earth like a giant sheet of paper, messing up the flat surface with countless creases and divots. The horizon was no longer visible as a straight line at the other end of the world, like the final shot in a Western film. Instead, the sun sank into the jagged teeth of mountain tops. Under the vibrant light flares of sunset, the hazy mountains turned a dark, jeweled purple. Purple mountains' majesty, Simon's brain provided. And the tips were stark white like tooth enamel. As evening came in, Dominic seemed to change his mind about being Simon's co-pilot in the passenger seat. Simon couldn't recall exactly when Dominic moved to the back seat. Space and time seemed to just bend around that moment, and Simon caught a glimpse of the boy in his rear-view mirrors. He was sitting in the middle seat, hands folded in his lap and eyes staring vacantly out the window. The barest suggestion of a smile pulled at Simon's lips. It was so typically Dominic. The middle seat was the least comfortable, with the seatbelt situated awkwardly behind you and nowhere to rest your elbows. If Dominic wanted to stare out the window, he would have been much more comfortable sitting on either the left or the right. But, given the option, Dominic always chose front and center, like a cat sitting in a square drawn on the floor in tape. That way, Dominic never had to exert the effort of making a decision, even though he often got his legs tripped over and his shins kicked from people moving around him. "Do you think we're still in Nebraska?" Simon asked conversationally. He was happy that Dominic had moved on from his stormy mood earlier, and his quiet company was appreciated. "I haven't seen any welcome to Colorado signs yet, but maybe those are only on the highway. We could have passed state lines and not even realized it. I guess we could be in Wyoming for all I know." Simon's eyes passed over a road sign with a white arrow pointing dead north. Witchwood Village, historic Old West village, 20 miles. Witchwood Tree Memorial Park, 5 miles. "Witchwood," Simon muttered to Dominic. "That's a cute name." He saw the memorial park first from the tip of the tree, and when he did, there was no question in Simon's mind that this was the titular Witchwood tree. Even from a handful of miles away, one had no choice but to see the long and gray arms of the branches extended outwards. The crooked angles of the wood were like broken wrists that supported long, knobby-knuckled fingers. They reached outwards on all sides, beckoning in. The trunk of the tree was a thick, sturdy pillar of plant flesh. The roots were so bloated and beefy that some had escaped the confines of the ground and snaked over the surface of the hill that the tree was rooted into, like fat pythons. In this early evening that seemed to be getting darker with every passing second, Simon could not see the surface of the tree trunk. But an active imagination supplied the fact that it must be coarse and rough, with bark that jutted out and scraped the skin off one's palms. There simply could not be a giant, gnarled old tree on a giant old hill that was not this way. Simon felt beads of cold sweat appear on the back of his neck. He knew there was something about the tree that was trying to pull him in. He was trying very hard to keep his eyes on the road, even though there was no other car visible for miles in front of or behind him. it felt like he still needed to focus every tiny atom of his attention to just continuing in a straight line. The road passed closer to the tree, and the car followed along that swerving, wobbly trajectory. Simon's ears began to ring, and he thought at first it must be the shift in altitude. It must be the thin air. The noise was low, raspy and grating, like the grinding of teeth. He wanted so much to keep his eyes straight ahead through the windshield. But now that Simon had started to think about the tree, it took tremendous effort to do anything else. It was as if there was a fishing hook lodged in his brain, reeling him up that hill. Against every cell in his body screaming at him to resist, the compulsion won. Simon's eyes quickly darted to the tree. He was not entirely sure how many bodies there were. Simon would have had to walk around the entire trunk, neck craning up towards the tall limbs to individually count each long, limp shape that hung from the thicker branches. At this distance, it was impossible to discern any details about the body's features or clothes. It was more like they were just lolling heads with the vague, bulky outline of a torso and dangling legs attached to them. The setting sun painted the sky a blistering orange behind them. Simon felt his throat close, trying to swallow down a dry lump. In the past 5 years, he had seen an endless variety of horrible stuff. Mangled limbs, blood-stained wedding dresses, everything that nightmares are made of. But he had yet to see a person who had been hanged, except in TV and the movies. And one time in high school, when a teacher had shown the class a black and white photo of a lynching. That had been a photograph of one hanged body. But looking at the countless bodies on the tree now conjured an absurd kind of morbid grief. It hurt Simon's head, like his brain was being stretched out like taffy in an attempt to just process the level of horror and misery that his eyes were taking in. The ropes hung straight down from tree branch to neck, as unbreakable and eternal as death. Simon stared in horrible awe, feeling very small and afraid. A violent shudder passed through the car and up Simon's spine. He realized that in his distraction, he had let the car slip off the pavement, and one of its tires had dipped into the rough dirt on either side of the asphalt. Hard in his throat, Simon twisted the steering wheel and corrected the car's trajectory. He caught an accidental look of Dominic in the rearview mirror, glaring darkly at Simon's reflection. The boy's hands were placed patiently on his knees, while a few trails of blood dripped down his face from his head wound like hot wax. Shame was added to the mix of very difficult and sharp emotions rolling around in Simon's chest. Dominic, like the bodies, could never be erased. "Sorry," Simon muttered, eyes looking at the road, but he had a hard time focusing. He was having a hard time even thinking. There was nothing else to do except drive. Simon could not stop the car to catch his breath because every rabbity instinct in his body screamed at him to get as far away from the tree and the bodies as he could. But he could not also let his foot slip and slam down on the gas pedal because he knew in his heart that he would lose control and go sliding off the road or discover another car just up the road to rear end. The only compromise was to keep a steady course, slowly sailing away from the tree at what felt like a snail's pace. Simon wondered if the bodies were watching him, like how Dominic watched him. He was afraid to imagine their eyes. It was sunset. the low sun stretched out the shadows, and even when Simon no longer could see the tree out of his side mirror, the shadow of it ran after him. The shade cast by the long, bare shadows followed him until it got too dark to separate the shade from the evening. This has been an excerpt from the novel Simon's Ghost. It was written by Kathleen Alys Hurley, published by Poe Girl Publishing, and read for you by Brin Kieffer. The full version is available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Thank you for listening.